Messmer the Impaler. A sweet summer child that, in his mother's name, committed total genocide upon an entire race. A race that pretty much abused and tormented his mother. But do you think his mother was happy about this? Maybe she was, who knows. And how does she repay Messmer? By locking him away in a shadow realm, while she goes off to play God somewhere else. A malevolent snake writhed inside of Messmer. And so his mother plucked out his very eye and put in its place a seal of grace, holding that snake monster back. Yet having done so, her fear compelled her to secret away her child within the realm of shadow, hidden away, keeping company with the original sin, and a hatred that would not be confined. The original sin being the genocide upon an entire race. Mind you, it was a messed up race that tortured and stuffed its people inside of jars for the hope that they would turn into saints. Well, Messmer's backstory can be a little weird and complicated. And if you're fighting Messmer for the first time, I get it, Messmer can be a little overwhelming at first. But he has a couple big weaknesses. And here's a few tactics you can use to help you beat this intimidating foe. Alone. With no help whatsoever. Messmer is weak to frost, rot, and bleed. I think. Not sure about that last one, but I believe he is. But I found it's easier just to give him a little bit of frost damage at the beginning. His second phase is a little too chaotic to try to, apply frost damage again. So we're just going to ignore all that for phase 2. But for phase 1, you're going to need frost pots, a hard-hitting sword, preferably a greatsword, one that you can swing pretty fast, and a lot of jumping attacks. Because we want Messmer to stagger as quickly as we can. What I use is a Knight's Lightning Greatsword because I'm a dex build. And the talismans I use is a two-handed sword talisman which enhances attacks with two-handed weapons. The Shard of Alexander, which greatly boosts the attack power of skills. The Claw Talisman, which enhances jumping attacks, but you can switch this out for the Two-Headed Turtle Talisman if you're having trouble regaining your stamina. And finally, the Erdtree's Favor +2, which raises maximum HP, stamina, and equip load. You can use a Ruin Arc if you want to. If you do, I suggest Radahn's Great Ruin, because it also raises maximum HP, FP, and stamina. It doesn't raise your equip load, but it raises FP, which is pretty good.
Subscribe, you fools.
For phase 1, the most important thing to do is rush in. We're gonna rush in, wait till he goes up in the air, and when he comes down, we're gonna dodge. And then we're gonna dodge the second blast and instantly throw some freeze pots at him. And now, we're just gonna roll all of his attacks, while getting jumping attacks any chance we can. Now, a word of warning, you will have to learn his movesets, well, sorta. You need to learn his startup attacks and ending attacks. And you're gonna roll through all of his attacks, and once you see the ending attack, that is your window. You only have one window to either attack, which preferably a jumping attack would suffice to break his guard, or you can heal, or use whatever item necessary in that fight. Most of his attacks is a big whirlwind of fiery devastation. And it usually ends with the 4th swipe, if that makes sense. So after you roll through his attacks 4 times successfully, a window emerges. And you can either do a jump attack or heal, depending on where your health bar is at that time. Will be totally up to you what decision you make. Some attacks of his ends in 3 hits, and most of his attacks can be rolled through entirely. The best strategy is to stay as close to Messmer as possible. And when he does Messmer's assault, you roll through the big whirlwind of devastation, And when he does that repeating thrust attack, you can actually roll through that by rolling into him or staying as close to him as possible. And then he slams his spear into the ground, which really, you could just stand there because it doesn't do any damage unless it hits you. But it's when the spikes come back up out of the ground when you have to roll. That's what you got to be wary of. And after that, there's a window. You could either attack or heal. And if you're lucky enough, you might be able to attack twice. My weapon art is Impaling Thrust, because when he does get staggered, instead of healing at that time, you can wait till your stamina gets back up while he's trying to get back up to his feet, and you can perform a jumping attack followed by an Impaling Thrust, because he's most likely going to try to move away from you. And if you have a strong build that does a lot of damage, after the first critical attack, followed by a jump attack and Impaling Thrust, it should move on to phase 2, or be close to it. When he does move into phase 2, you want to instantly heal at least one time to get your health bar as high as you can. And then you want to drink your physic, which you can experiment whatever your heart desires, but I use the Leaden Hard tier for 10 seconds of poise, and the Crimson Whirl Bubble tier for 10 seconds of magic damage negation. So, you know, anything that has magical properties will heal me. And that basically turns me into Superman for 10 to 15 seconds. This allows me to take more damage whenever he does his fire attacks, and it allows me to give some attacks of my own without getting staggered. You're gonna have to be aware of his snake attacks, because he can shoot them out at any moment. Pay close attention to the snakes when he does. When they look like they're about to strike, you roll and you should dodge them with ease. He does a couple of those attacks, one with a single hit, another with 3 hits. The one you have to watch out for is when he makes a big, weird puddle on the ground and the 3 snakes shoot up all at once. There will be an area of effect damage right there, so you'll have to roll immediately, followed by 1 snake strike and then another. After that, he will slam into the ground and shoot spikes out of the ground like his previous phase. He does a lot of the same movements, only more drawn out. And if you learn these attacks and find these windows to do jumping attacks or heal, you should be able to conquer Messmer with no problem.
Did you enjoy this video? Consider subscribing to the main channel at Mr. Nobody Elden Souls, where it's more focused on invading, or the second channel at Nobody Elden Things, where its focus is on helping and will be the main hub for invading for dummies. Subscribe to both and I promise you will not be disappointed. Thank you for watching, my tarnished, and we will see you next time.
Like and subscribe or I'll deathblight you in your sleep.
This message has been approved by the mayor of Froggytown.